Hello friends and welcome to CJoy Yoga. We are going to be doing a little series of articulation in our hips. So you don't have to start seated. If you started there, go ahead and you can move the things off to the side. That said, I personally like to have padding underneath my knees, particularly on hard wood floor kind of surfaces. And then from there, you're just gonna come on into hands and knees. Now let's just take a couple of cat-cows just to move the spine a little bit. So when we inhale and reach the chest forward, here we are, and the spine is in an arch, or what's called extension, right? And as you pull the belly up and you round the spine, you're going into what's called flexion. Inhale, reaching the chest forward. You can think of the whole front of the spinal column elongating while the back side of it compresses a little bit, right? And pulling the belly up, and on this one it would be the whole back side of the spinal column that elongates, the front side compresses. Do that one more time, but just make it a little bit smaller. And I shouldn't even say one more time. Do it a couple of times, making it just a little bit smaller until you feel like you're right in the middle of those two actions where you're neither in flexion nor extension. And then if I could, I would put my hands on the very tippy tops of your thighs, assuming that would be okay with you. I would always ask permission, of course. But then pulling those hips back as your chest reaches forward away from me pulling. Elongate the spine as much as you can without dropping ribs or belly. That's your neutral. You're going to try to maintain that spine and these hips the whole time. We're going to deal with the leg. We're going to deal with the leg. We're going to work with the leg, but we're going to try to keep the pelvis and the spine completely neutral. If you needed to come on forearms, if your wrists are sensitive, or fists, that's an option. Working with the right leg first. Now, before we lift the leg, I'd love for you to go ahead and move the thighs in towards one another energetically, meaning they're not going to move. Imagine a block is in there preventing them from physically moving closer, but as they pull in gently, you get that pelvic floor and also your transversus abdominis, the corset. So keep those really active even as we start to reach that right leg up behind us. We're going to keep the knee bent right now, right? And again, we're going to inhale and reach the chest, knee forward without letting that affect your pelvis, your low back, your upper back, or your neck. So it won't come as high as it might if you round it. And go ahead and reach that hip back, that knee back. Let me see if I can say this correctly while you're in this hard position. And then go ahead and you're going to let that right knee start to move forward. Again, try not to move the hip, try not to move the low back or the spine. And then go ahead and move that knee behind you. Now, keeping the thigh parallel to the floor, see if you can pull your heel closer to your buttocks to start to engage your hamstring, right? And keep that heel in. And then release that away, lengthen the leg all the way out. Try not to let anything change except at the knee joint. And heel reaches back, chest reaches forward. Bend that knee again, and now we're going to take it in rotation. So you're going to bring the knee forward like we've done without any movement in the hip or in the spine. And then you're going to go ahead and you're going to hug the right knee now a little out and towards your right armpit. I'm nowhere near my armpit. I'm more by my elbow, right? But the objective, the energetic goal is the armpit. And then from there, you're going to move the thigh back a little bit. Don't lift that right hip when you do this. I'm really guilty of that one, right? As I lift the knee into what would be a dog peeing on a fire hydrant. Now, keep your thigh bone where it is, but you're going to rotate the thigh bone, and the heel starts to lift up towards the ceiling, even as you move that, or rotate the thigh bone into internal rotation. Try not to let the hips move. Bring that back to where we were, fire hydrant, and then rotate it around until the thigh is parallel, the knee is behind you. Extend the leg one more time and reach the chest forward. Set that leg down. Now just pause for a moment and notice if there's any difference between what's happening on the right side of your body, in the hip area, and the left side. Let's take a child's pose in between just to give the wrists a little break. And you can let the arms soften down. I'm going to leave my head higher just for vocal quality. And even down here, when we start to move into these other things, just notice there may be no difference at all. We did not do a test strip to see if the right hip itself has changed before and after, but right now we're just noticing if the right hip feels different than the left. Okay, come back up. I'm going to turn simply so you can see my left leg, my left side a little better as I work with that. Again, you could be on fists, you could be on forearms, you could put your forearms on blocks, right? But anytime we start to work in the hands, remember to use your fingers as pressure points as well, so you're not just in the heel of your hand. So just a couple of baby cat-cows, right? Not too big, but just kind of finding, oh, extension, oh, flexion, oh, there we go. Now I'm right in the center of both of those actions. I'm going to move my thighs in towards one another, energetically. I'm going to pull my thighs in towards one another, not move them, pull them, right? Find that corset. And now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to reach that left knee back behind, not lifting the hip, thigh parallel-ish to the ground. If you can't get it that high, it's okay. And then from there, we're going to inhale and bring that knee in towards the chest without moving the hip, the low back, the upper back, etc., right? Really stabilizing here. Move that knee back to where we started originally. Is all the weight in your right hand, your left hand? Go ahead and bring that knee forward. Is your right shin still pushing down? Be curious, right? And then the next time we go up, we're going to hold thigh parallel to the ground, right? Now try to pull that heel as deeply towards the buttocks as you can in your body, just to ignite the hamstrings, right? And get them active. And now reach that leg back to where it was, shin perpendicular. And we're going to bring that through rotation. Bring that knee in towards the chest. Try not to move the hip or the spine. Pause. Now from there, you're going to move that knee out and maybe just slightly forward. I barely move forward, right? Think of armpit as your energetic goal, but it's probably more towards the elbow. And holding it, I know this is the part, but this is where we build it, right? And then from there, we're moving out to fire hydrant without lifting that left hip. My left hip would love to jerk up higher than my right hip every single time. Now keep that thigh bone where it is. Imagine my hands grabbing your thigh bone and rotating your thigh bone into internal rotation. So the knee stays where it is in space, the thigh does, but they rotate, and that means the heel moves up towards the sky. And my side body, my body really wants to go into a side body curve, so I'm preventing that. Moving back into fire hydrant. And then that leg moves back, behind you, knee behind. Reach the leg out, reach the heel back, reach the chest forward, tone the low belly up, take an inhale, and set that down. One more time into a child's pose. And if you need to rotate wrists, if they're feeling like, ooh, go ahead and rotate them any amount or shake them out a little bit. But then soften back down. And just noticing now if the right hip feels different than the left hip. And the left hip feels different than it did just moments ago when we were in this pose. It's worth repeating poses after doing certain stretches or strength so that we can see what it does in our body, right? We had a blueprint and then we see what happens after. And you can put your hands next to your knees and roll your body up. If it's not comfortable to kneel, we won't be here long. You could just go to seated, long spine. Bring the hands together in front of the chest. Take an inhale. Exhale, bow your head in. Moment of gratitude. Oh, thank you, beautiful hips. I'm so fortunate I have you and that you are working enough to mobilize me. Namaste. Namaste.